think that our philosophy of playing might be a little bit different than the majority of the folks, but I think that it is a proven philosophy.
By hiring Hubie Brown as coach, the Knicks would now usher in a whole new regime.
We're not jogging, okay? We're playing. We're playing. Now let's see the quickness.
But at first, this new regime brought familiar results as the 1982 Knicks began the season with 7 straight losses.
We had 8 new players, and it was going to be a difficult job to turn it around. Now that team got off to a very rocky start. We lost a ton of close games.
Oh, he hit it! 3 seconds. Knicks don't have a timeout. And Atlanta's gonna win the game. That's incredible.
That was disappointing. You know, it was a lot of pressure on everyone, but I think that Hubie did a good job of keeping the guys together. And we had some personalities on the team, Paul Westphal and Truck Robinson. And these were guys that were veterans, and, you know, they weren't the sort of guys that were going to lay down.
The Knicks staunchly held to their plan. On offense, they would get the ball to forward Bernard King and find center Bill Cartwright in the low post. And on defense, they would press.
Pressure helped that team.
Ambushing unsuspecting opponents, the Knicks unleashed a 10-man swarm, deploying the tenacious second unit to wear down their prey.
Now the Knicks team.
We started to gel, started to learn the system and learn one another. And I believe in the second half of the season, we ended up having the second best record in the league next to the Lakers that year.
Now, narrow losses were replaced by dramatic victories.
Bernard going with a long jump shot. What a shot by King! 2 seconds to go. Into Spiro. 2 seconds, 1 second. He hit it! He hit it!
We were able to end the season in a roar. Win our first 2 games in the first round. We defeated New Jersey. And then in the second round, we ran into the famous Philadelphia team, fo.
The powerful Sixers would go on to be world champions, but the Knicks had proven to themselves that they could play with anyone.
We had come somewhere. We made the playoffs. We made strides. We ended the season on a real positive note, and things were very promising for the upcoming season.
The Knicks had good reason to be optimistic. Now comfortable with Hubie's system, they were prepared to take their play to the next level. And a fiercely determined Bernard King was ready to lead the way.
You know, I was named captain that year. That was really something. It really is. You know, I cried about that because here was a young kid that grew up in Brooklyn, New York. You know, he made it to play for the New York Knickerbockers. Now here he's named captain of the ball club. And that meant I had to take on added responsibility.
It was a challenge that he would rise to, unleashing an offensive attack that was as lethal as it was efficient.
He did very, very few things with pizzazz, with fanciness, with a lot of splash. He was like a swooping bird on the fast break. He had that incredible capacity to end the break with a quick dunk, and you would blink because you didn't even see it happen. His release on his post-up were one of the quickest releases ever in the history of the NBA. His spin moves, he had such a repertoire.
To me, Bernard King was the most exciting, explosive weapon in the history of the Knicks.
And in the span of 48 hours on a Texas road trip, King would make history.
5 seconds. Here's Bernard looking for 50. He's got it.
For San Antonio, Bernard scores 50. Next night we go to Dallas. And you figure, well, what else can he do to top this?
Give it to King, the screaming.
They say, give it to B.
All right, here it is. Bernard looking for 50, and he's got it. Back-to-back 50-point games for Bernard King.
He was a guy that took up on the leadership during that time. He took all the pressure and put it on himself, and he carried the basketball team.
King would carry the Knicks to the playoffs, but as Game 1 began in Detroit, the Knicks were in danger of being quickly overwhelmed by the favored Pistons.
Things were out of sync, and we didn't have the team rhythm that was necessary. It wasn't getting the proper rotations on defense. And then, you know, something interesting happened. In the second half, we started chipping away, and we found ourselves in a game, so to speak.
With the clock running down, the The Knicks would again look to King in the clutch, but this time he would get help from an unlikely source.
The steal by Walker. What a play. 50 seconds to go. The Knicks are down by 4. Here's King moving on from Puka. Yes, it's a 2-point game.
Spearheading a frantic Knick press, rookie Darrell Walker rattled the Pistons, helping the Knicks erase a 6-point deficit in under a minute and take a 1-point lead with seconds to go.
5 seconds. Walker got a piece of it. 3 seconds. Lambeer. And it's all over. The Knicks have stolen a ball game. They have defeated the Detroit Pistons 94-90.
Though King continued to ravage the Pistons, averaging 43 points over the next 3 contests, Detroit would win 2 of them, forcing a deciding 5th game in a sweltering Joe Louis arena.
It was at least 120 in there that evening. We had an added problem because Bernard King had the flu. He did not work out in the shoot-around. The flu was sapping his body. He had a splint on the middle finger of the one hand and a splint on the middle finger of the other hand, playing with 2 dislocations. Only the great ones can tunnel vision and focus and block out pain. And that's what Bernard King did.
King, yes, and it counts.
Shattering Elgin Baylor's 5-game playoff scoring record, King was unstoppable.
Here's King over Curran. Yes, 34 for King, and the Knicks now lead at 106-98.
We were up big going into the last 94 seconds. And then Isaiah Thomas put on one of the greatest shows ever seen in the NBA. He scored 16 points in 94 seconds.
King went for the steal. Isaiah, 3-point attempt. He's got it! For time!
They even get the last shot.
Isaiah checking the clock. 5 seconds. Here's Thomas. He's stripped by Walker. Gets it down to Tucker. 2 seconds. He tries to get it away.
Daryl Garrison is not going to allow as timeout ran out. Hubie Brown can't believe it.
But Knick protests would go in vain, and having squandered their lead and their momentum, they would stagger into overtime.
But in that playoff, Bernard King just would not let us lose.
Lewis went up with the left hand. King with a sensational rebound.
And that could have been the backbreaker right there.
Had to be about 7 or 8 guys that was in the lane boxing out, jockeying for position, and out of nowhere, it was like Superman just came above the crowd. He slammed dunk back in. I knew right then we were on our way.
The Knicks had done it. Against the odds, they had battled their way out of Detroit. But they would have little time to celebrate their victory, as they quickly found themselves headed for another enemy stronghold, where the Celtics, owners of the league's best record, menacingly awaited. Boston wasted little time in pouncing on the weary Knicks, easily taking the first 2 contests. They frustrated Bernard King and then taunted him, vowing that he had seen his last 40-point performance and sending the Knicks home to ponder the humiliation of a Celtic sweep.
When we flew back, we went to our training facility at Uppsala University. We never touched the ball that day. The meeting was an hour, 15 minutes, an hour and 30 minutes. We went into the hearts of people.
Puts it up with the left hand. Oh, and McHale is just hammered by Grenfell.
Kevin McHale, I went right for him. I grabbed him, put him in a bear hug, and that was it for him.
Ernie and I kid about that today. But that was like the injection that we needed.
New York would no longer be pushed around. Home at the Garden, the Knicks were backing down from no one.
You know, when you got 20,000, 18,000 people in Madison Square Garden, and you know they hate the Celtics screaming their lungs out, it makes a difference.
The Celtics had embarrassed them, and now the Knicks would exact vengeance in full measure.
And that's 40 points for Bernard King.
We loved that because now here's a guy saying, well, you're not going to get 40, and then you go out and get 46.
The Knicks defended their home turf, winning all 3 contests at the Garden and taking the Celtics to 7 games. There would be no more taunts as the Knicks pushed the Celtics to the limit. For the first time in years, the future looked as bright as the past.
No one played the Celtics as tough as we did in that 7-game series. They went on to win the championship. We thought we were close.
But the team that would take the floor as the next season began would not be the one that had inspired these dreams of a title. With Cartwright, Robinson, and Webster all lost to season-ending injuries, the Knicks' once bright future had taken a nightmarish turn. But the nightmare was only beginning.
Reggie Theus. Look out. King hurt himself.
Going up in the air, I knew that I totally destroyed my knee. I knew that going up in the air. I knew that the injury that I suffered probably was career-ending.
As Bernard King was carried from the court, the last of the Knicks' fading hopes died painfully before their eyes.
It was a very difficult time in New York over the next 2 seasons because these guys never came back.